My name is Fisho Mwale, and this is my story.
In the 50s, Zambia was still a colony under British rule, a time when segregation was still rife, and blacks were largely doing manual work for minimal pay. Fisho Mwale was born in the mining town of Ndola into a family of 6, the second born of Dr. Siteke Mwale and Daisi Shawa Mwale.
Our parents imparted, first and foremost, the principle of sharing. Our house was a house of interaction. It was a house of people who came from everywhere. So that, I think, was one principle we had of our house being an open house.
But I think he's got very, very strong Christian grounding. His late father, Dr. Siteke Mwale, and his mom, Mrs. Mwale, they are very, very strong members of the Reformed Church in Zambia.
My first project, remember we had moved motions to change the use and so on, was to put up a mall. Before long, the project was real. And you know what happens? Where they say that where there's success has many fathers, failure is an orphan. That project became so sweet, the government even took it. Next thing I heard was the minister calling me, Mayor, I think this project is big, we must move it. I said, but you didn't want this project.
There was a big wrangle going on between UTTA and Drivers Association of Zambia. It was so heated up. You know, these guys were almost killing each other. He got them together in the civic center, spoke to them, and started working together. How he did, I don't know, but I remember he bring them together as mayor, spoke to them nicely, and humanized the situation.
But I stayed for 4 years, and I can't explain why, but I was kept for 4 years. So I'm still the longest serving mayor. By default, by design or whatever, but I stayed there for 4 years. That's how I left, because the following day people went to my house trying to arrest me. And I knew that things were serious.
Of course, he went away to protect himself, otherwise he was going to be killed.
And while I was outside the country, that's when we sued the Zambian government in London. It's a matter which is fully well known, and they started calling us the vouchers and so on. But it was an unfair description of events.
There's a tendency sometimes for people not to educate themselves on certain issues. And it is essential that we in Zambia, we should learn to educate ourselves in certain issues. Because sometimes they would call you a name, and everybody else starts calling you a name without understanding, why is it like this? What's the background?
Because the impression which was created, I think even by government, was as if I had run away, I had committed corrupt cases and so on. And yet, it is us who had sued.
But of course, at the end of the day, you know what happened? Fisho Mwale won the case in the London courts. So that is a clear indication that people do not understand.
And even when we won the case, of course, not that we expected it, but it wasn't even publicized that the government had lost a case in London.
My name is Fisho Mwale, and this is my story.